Okay. Okay, let's switch in English because our guests are international. We have the honor to have here this evening a great design studio, and the name is Design Studio, of course. We have here Alex Jones and Campbell Butler. Design Studio is international. It's based in London, New York, San Francisco, and Sydney. And their customers are simply incredible. So we will see some very, very nice projects. I would invite here on the stage our two guests. A warm applause for them.
Check, check.
Okay. There will be space for Q&A at the end, but right now this is for you and the stage.
Thank you. Hi, guys. Hello, I'm Campbell.
Hello, I'm Alex. Thanks for having us. Amazing talks already today. It's been kind of incredible. So we're a little bit worried about taking this leading spot with all the alcohol and the rum sponsor, but we'll have a go. So yeah, thank you. It's going to be great.
I'm Campbell. So I'm a creative director at DesignStudio, and Alex is too. There's one more of us in the London office. He's not with us, Eric, but it'll be okay. He misses out, doesn't he? So it'll be all right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take you through a whole bunch of stuff, a little bit of process, the way we kind of work and what we do, and then we're going to take you through some specific projects at the end. So let's get started. What are we going to talk about? Hi. Let's change everything is the title of our talk, which is kind of something that we want to do. It's something that whenever a client comes in, they generally kind of walk in the door or knock on the door or send us an email or whatever they use, and they go, "Hey, I've heard you've done Airbnb. Great, we want exactly that. Can you do us a logo?" And we go, "No. We're going to change everything because that's what we need to do to make you successful. We need to change absolutely everything. We need to go from the logo to a whole bunch of different stuff. And the way that we do that is that we do it together. So I'm going to break this down a little bit. Let's see what happens. So it's a real combination of things. We do not work in isolation. It's actually impossible to do it when working with bigger companies. So it's about our team, like our design team. We work in kind of little design teams to solve kind of any kind of massive big business problem that there is. We also work really closely with our clients. So we don't just kind of take a brief from them, accept the brief, and then execute on the brief. We really work through that with them, and we work with them collaboratively at every stage throughout the whole project, and including implementation at the end. And partners up the top there are also absolutely critical because as we do love graphic design, one of my personal things that I really love, but I'm only good enough to a certain degree, and then there's a whole bunch of other skill sets and amazing staff, 3D animators, designers, illustrators, coders, developers, whoever it is that we really need to work really closely with to make really cool stuff. We can't just do it ourselves, although we do try. And then the customers. So we can't forget those people as well. So we always try and make sure that we kind of get a really fantastic understanding of people wherever they are and whatever business we're working on. So let's go. Next. What's this bit? Change. People hate change. Everyone hates it. Nobody likes change. Nobody does. Even though we're designers, we go, yeah, we're very open to change. It's like, and then you go, oh, yeah, but maybe you change typeface. They're like, and clients hate it too. And customers hate it too. Everybody hates it. So what you've got to just accept is whenever you put something out there in the world, you're going to get a load of friction and everyone's going to hate it. But that's cool. That's good because it means you're doing something different. It means you're doing something new. And we don't want to be in this evolution world over here on the left-hand side. We want to be in a much more kind of revolution space, really changing fundamentally lots of stuff. And that word up there I'm particularly fond of is new. I know. A lot of the designers at work, they're constantly get reference stuff out, mood board images. They put it up on, up on the boards, and they really delve into it. Oh, I love this, I love that. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. Do your own thing, follow your own process, make it new. And I think that's really, really critical, okay? Next one is everything. We want to change everything, not just the logo, not just the brand, but we want to move into other stuff, like the behavior of customers and people and the way they kind of operate with, interact with their devices. We saw some amazing stuff from the Googlers earlier around that kind of thing. The company itself, fundamentally, their vision, their values, their mission, whatever it is that's kind of driving them, we need to kind of look at that too. And ultimately, I think some of our clients have actually had a real impact culturally as well. And I think that's the ideal thing that we really do want to change, is we want to have a really positive impact on the world and the cultures that we kind of operate in. That's enough for me.
Yeah, it's got the worst SEO, that name. It's horrific. But yeah, let's change everything. It's a mantra. It's the title that we gave to this talk because we could basically talk about anything we wanted. But it's really important because a lot of the work that DesignStudio does touches culture. We're not picky about who our clients are, apart from the fact they need to have an ambition that's really big and it matches our ambition. So that might be a small startup who's growing exponentially and wants to articulate what they stand for, or it might be an amazing conglomerate who's lost their way and needs to reconnect. So every project's different, every client is different, but the process doesn't change. And this is kind of a new thing for us, because we've gone to a lot of new business meetings saying our process is unique every time. It's always a different project, always different outcomes. And we've come to realize that it's not the process that changes, it's the client, and it's the immersion, and it's the answers, just like a documentary maker. So our process is really simple, but we stick to it religiously. It's kind of 3 stages. The first stage is immersion. So this is, we were having good conversations earlier with some of the designers. Immersion is where we throw ourselves in to the world of our client, to the world of our customer. We go and live with a client, we go and breathe with a client, we go to their offices, we spend time in their countries. We've got about half the team out in the world right now, people in South America doing a 3-week immersion, going around all of the Americas. We've got people over in India right now riding with delivery drivers to understand how we can connect food delivery in a better manner. We've got people in Singapore as well doing amazing stuff. So we send the team to go and live the world of our clients so that ultimately we can get better answers. And immersion is where we do all our documentary making. We think of design as being like a good documentary maker. At the end of it, your articulation and how you make that documentary might be different, but that raw content that you collect is going to be the thing that gives you that authentic truth. And for us, we want to create a really authentic truth. And it's in the strategy phase where we create that. So immersion, it might be 1 day, it might be a week, it might be 6 weeks, it might be 6 months, it might be creating an Airbnb listing in our own property, or it might be spending loads of time on the road. But all of it, at the end of it, turns into strategy. And for us, this is the design. This is where all the design pins and drops from. If we get the strategy right and that strategic positioning and that kind of like truth, then we've got the perfect answer. For us, we kind of help a brand really articulate who they are. So for a startup, it might be growing in a huge manner. You've got loads of people joining every day, but the kind of founder has lost their way. We help them re-articulate and explain what's special about them and stand out in a crowd. So it's positioning, it's kind of propositions, it's whatever is needed, just enough to make sense of it. And then once you've got the strategy right, that is the answer for all design. Design we're using here because it's a graphic design sort of talk, but really we call this last stage expression. So this could be typography, this could be a product, this could be a new service, this could be anything at all. And at DesignStudio, we really like to say yes. We say yes to everything, as Cam touched on. When a client comes to us, usually they want this, they want a logo, and we're like, yeah, we love logos. Like, logos is what we do. Like, you know, we get nerdy in the details, and we put care and attention, and we'll make it look great at 10 pixels and 10 meters high. Love a logo. You know, love typography. We're all born and bred typographers with graphic design at our heart. You know, we were spending our time in the letterpress. Love that. You know, this is a great bit of typography we did for the World Athletics Association. You know, and then we always push it. We love graphics. We love graphic systems. We love starting to understand how this language can live in spaces beyond the computer screen. Maybe the taxi cab, maybe you know, the floor as you're walking through an airport. Any situation, a graphic system is really helpful. But these are all classic things. You know, we love photography. We create photography. I know this is an amazing piece for Deliveroo, a big, juicy burger. We produce it. We go on the road. We work with photographers, amazing partners. Love that stuff. Illustration, all of your classics. Love that. We always try and push it a little bit further. This is a gorgeous icon set we did for Springster, which they sort of said they wanted a logo, and actually we said, no, what you actually need is a graphic system. This was an amazing thing that I think collaboration between Nike, Girl Effect, and Facebook Free Basics, bringing amazing, important information to young girls around the world, and we needed to create a brand that spoke their language. All this stuff is pretty normal. This is like our day-to-day brand world, but we love to say yes to this kind of stuff. Weird stuff, trophies, product design, we do this kind of thing. This was for LEC, which you'll see a little bit later. Set design. So yeah, of course, we did the Champions League rebrand, but we said, of course, we'll take it into the set and the experience, and we'll talk about the lighting, and again, we'll work with incredible partners to bring this to life. We can't do this in-house, but we work collaboratively with all of our studios. And the Immersion lets us do this, because we're actually living and breathing. We become part of the company's design team. Love a campaign. Campaigns are the sort of sweet spot. You know, it's a graphic design play that lives in the ether for maybe 6 months to a year, and you can have some real fun. This was an early roller campaign, which actually ended up being Apple's one of their first third-party pop-ups within the Apple stores. So we translated campaign into the Apple stores. We love animation, House of Animators. You know, we just say yes to absolutely everything. It's a bit crazy and a bit painful for our designers, but we love it. Signage, wayfinding, furniture, mascots. This was a brand that's coming out. I think it's out now. They said they needed a logo. We said, no, what you actually need is a friendly, furry mascot that's going to help you through the health process. It has to be right for the customer. It has to be right for the challenge. And if the strategy makes sense, then it can give us any of these outcomes. Love to create content, websites, products, physical products. This is a fantastic electric bike with the Jaguar Land Rover research and development team. We gave them this funky logo, but then we said, this is so cool that you should put it onto your tires. And then we also did a bit of product design where electric bikes make no sound as they go around a circuit. So we said, right, you're going to need to chisel some, I'm a bit quiet. You need to chisel some holes in that so it makes a really cool sound as you go around. And then experiences. So like really for us, this is where we're going to leave it on before we show you projects, because DesignStudio has come of age a little bit. The Airbnb days are long behind us, although they still have a place in our heart. I think what we found ourselves in is not doing graphic design anymore, or design. It's really brand experience. And brand experience for us is that kind of complete 360. It's working with incredible partners, knowing that we can't do it all ourselves. It's reaching out to amazing people when we need to, but it's also creating a really holistic feel for someone, so that when you interact with a brand, and most of the times it's not the logo that you interact with, we make sure that you come away with the brand having evoked the idea and that strategic positioning that you want. So that all sounds a bit weird, because we do everything. But what we got is 3 projects that kind of deconstruct that weirdness and hopefully make a bit more sense. And I'll let Cam take us through those.
Okay, so first one is Depop. So how many people know Depop?
Oh,
quite a lot. So this is a second-hand platform for selling clothes, basically. But we worked with them initially to do all their branding and come up with their spirit and their tone of voice and how they're going to communicate in the world and work with their app and their product design. And and just basically to highlight what's super cool, which is these incredible people that are on this platform doing amazing stuff. And it's pretty amazing. But I'm not going to talk about the brand part. I'm going to talk about a campaign that we just run, because what I think it talks around is kind of how we really find those customers, that community and who they are, and we kind of let them do the talking for the brand, because if the brand is kind of creating stuff for them, then then that's what that brand should be about. Okay, so that gives you a bit of a sense. We're working with them, we're understanding them, their people. We went on one of those immersions, we really try to understand them. We try to kind of find out the way that they talk, and then we just played it back to them. We're like, okay, this is what it feels like to be kind of part of this community. This is what it feels like to be on this platform, which is really powerful. And you guys need to kind of just do that all the time externally, push it out there into the world. This is the logo that we designed for them, which is, pretty simple and kind of does its job. It has this kind of, weirdness and punch to it with, the D and the P kind of flipping around. But then we came to doing the campaign. They went away, they started living this brand for a while, and they actually were really successful, and they kind of grew and they grew and they grew. They're doing amazing stuff. They tried to go to a traditional ad agency, and they went there and they went, hey guys, can you do this? And then they came up with like loads of really bogus random ideas around them kind of connecting with Urban Outfitters and doing all this stuff. And they were like, please stop them from doing that. Can you kind of, can we just work with you guys and you just do the campaign, because you guys get us, you understand what it is that we're about because you spent so much time with us. And so what we did is we went, okay, the campaign has to be about your community. Like, this is it. Like, this is the first time you're going to go out in London, in New York, in Milan, on kind of billboards all over the place. It has to be based on that spirit that we defined from you at the start. So we obviously did a bit of research on the community again. We looked into it. But then we noticed that we found that the people on the actual platform itself write these really funny bios about themselves. And so, you can see some of them here. I don't know. Oh, yeah. On holiday till 21st of August, Y2K, 90s, rare finds, bad bish style. We're like, awesome. And then we go up here, bundle and save, don't forget to smile, rainbow smiley face. This is how these people kind of communicate what they're selling. And we're like, that's cool, that's fantastic. I wonder what these people look like as well. I bet you they look pretty cool. And we just went, let's just take some of those statements from these communities, these people, the way they describe themselves. Let's contact them. Let's get their photograph, or just take an image from what they put on their platform, and just use that as the campaign. So we did loads and loads of design exploration work on this, moving stuff around. But of course, the simplest thing is always the answer, which is this one in the middle. Which is basically just to kind of take that statement and the simple color palette and that piece of type and put it out there. Y2K, 90s, rarefied, bad bish style. We got rid of some of the other kind of clutter and bits and pieces that you saw from previously, and then we put the hashtag on that. And we don't say anything else really. I mean, I really fought actually quite hard to just have that and the Depop logo, but we did have to put the app icon so that people knew it was an app and do a few annoying things. But we fought really hard for that, because what we want to do is we want people to then go on search for that hashtag and they go, what is bad bish style? And then when they see it, they go, oh my God, that is bad bish style, and I don't want anything to do with that. Okay, so this is kind of the concepts that we kind of were putting out there. So here's some more fun ones. Vintage crystals and writings of the New Earth paradigm. I always get this one wrong. I can't really say it. I'm not cool enough. Time to be an intergalactic space girl goddess. Let's go and see what that's about. And this is what they look like. This is these incredible people on this platform expressing themselves, really positive, really cool stuff. So we don't have to do anything. We just take their statement that they say about themselves and an image and put it next to it. And then we just run that in New York, in London, all over the tube, wherever we can. We also had some other kind of cute ideas. Do this same thing, but with those little, rip-off little tags, and seed those around all the universities and stuff like that. So people don't know it's an ad, but it is an ad. And here's some more. Now this one was going over to New York, and they were like, you can't just run a typographic thing. Like, that might work in London, where you guys are really cool and typographic, but in New York, no way, we need a picture. So we had to kind of work out a new system for kind of accommodating the image. But in my mind, it kind of gives it away. It gives the coolness away, but it does look quite cool as well. So here's some for the New York audience. Pizza, aliens, eyeballs, oh my. We suggested a bunch of magazines, kind of getting that community, run out a whole bunch of stuff using it. And we suggested that they do some physical spaces, create a new physical space in New York. And maybe this could be what's on your mirror. So you have a mirror and you just have, you look good already written on it. And that's really cool. And then obviously invite people to that space. And do social media campaigns as well that are, in the same general vibe. Stickers, the merch. And this was the kind of concept that we painted. And we're like, okay, this is what it is. Now, you guys have to do this. So how do we find a photographer? Well, of course, we use their community. Like, we have to. That's the only way to do it. So we got them to reach out to some really fantastic photographers that are already on their network. And do you know what? They do a much better job than we would suggesting someone. It's quite interesting because they get it and they understand. And, and this is just the people wearing their stuff. These are those people that wrote those statements. And, it's pretty amazing to see some of these. And that's it in New York. Most likely to pocket your lighter by mistake. From my body to yours with love. I don't know, love heart, I guess? You might notice some of these. If you've been to New York, you might have seen some of these kind of spots where you might. And the shop and the store in New York as well opened up at the same time, doing some of those other activations and ideas that we did. So that's it. That's the campaign. So getting it out there, using that community, and just doing something really cool with it.
Yeah, I think what was really cool about the campaign was we're not Depopers, we're not that cool, but we spent a lot of time immersing ourselves in the community because we knew the answer couldn't come from us, it had to come from them. So we had to create a system, a campaign, an idea that truly came from them. And what you'll see is Depop, achingly cool, fantastically up to date, don't really understand it myself, but we got a really amazing result, to something that had to be a lot more universal. And it came into the studio, and we were, not the most excited people in the world. It was a Barcelona-based startup called Typeform. Typeform make online questionnaires and surveys to help your small business understand a bit more about people. So when you go out in this sort of new business meeting and you say, hey, I got this online questionnaire thing, people's heads really just go to the world of forms. And online forms, sorry Google, a little bit boring. They're just not evocative. And sort of where Typeform were at as well was, it was okay, it was serviceable, but it was incredibly generic. There was nothing in this that didn't say, we're a startup about 3 years in and need a little bit of design help. But we saw that as a big challenge. And we always like to say yes, and we always love to push the client. And the reason why we got super excited was because of the team. And they were doing something different. They were one of the only kind of amazing fledgling startups in Barcelona, about to go unicorn status. Really cool team, really energized. They had a bigger mission. And they also came to us and said, oh, the job's half done. We've already nailed the strategy. We've got that. We know what we're about. So you just need to do the design stuff. And we were like, great, that's cool. You've got the strategy. Perfect. What is it? And they showed us this. And it was why we exist, to make things a little more human. And we said, great, you've got the strategy of every startup in Silicon Valley. Everyone's making stuff a bit more human, aren't they? This is not a strategy. This is just like, this is nothing. I don't really know what this is. And we said, you need some help, but that's why you're here. And they knew they were here. Because they knew this needs to be deeper and richer. Because what does it mean to be human when we're all humans? You know, we don't really call each other humans, but we knew there's something behind it. So we had to go on the DS journey. We immersed ourselves. Along with that kind of strategy of being more human, they'd also got some initial logos. And their initial logos were all based around cuneiform and some of the earliest types of handwriting. And they said, yeah, this is the most basic form of communication, isn't it, writing? It's the most basic form of communication. We said, no, it isn't. The basic form of communication is all the nonverbal cues. So we ran workshops just without any writing. It was all nonverbal. So we got the CEOs to play with Play-Doh, and they had to start to explain concepts to each other. Because ultimately, what is a survey? It's about me getting some data out of you, right? And the problem with surveys and forms at the moment is they speak to you in a really odd way. They're super robotic. It's like meeting someone for the first time and going, name, age, date of birth. That's just really weird. And Typeform had this sort of internal mantra of start with hello. Because you go, oh, hello, how are you? What's your name? Where do you come from? You know, they said if we can create forms like that, you'll get better information, deeper information, and it'll be a richer experience for both. And we said, great, well, let's workshop that, and let's start to understand what it really means to communicate. We love a workshop. You'll see a few odd workshops throughout this presentation, but for us, a workshop is a way to ask the questions that they ask themselves on a daily basis, but in a different manner, so that we kind of tease out other answers, right? So they'll always have asked themselves, what's our why? What's our purpose? How can I come across to an investor as a compelling business proposition? But we made them kind of think about that through Play-Doh. And then we met the team. And this was the hard part, you know, spending weeks at the beach in Barcelona at their beach house property, which was kind of fantastic. They had the in-house barception, which was a bar in the evening and it was a coffee bar in the day, so it was quite grueling. No one's having fun. But it was lots of stakeholder interviews. So this was to talk to the whole breadth of the company, from the chap who served as flat whites at barception to understand why he stays at Typeform, to the CEO to understand why he joined as well, or why he created it. Typeform was so relaxed that it was like halfway through our immersion, and we hadn't met everybody yet. And I just finished a few interviews, was rocking up the bar, and just was like, some dude I hadn't seen, I was like, hey man, how's it going? He's like, yeah, it's pretty good. And I was like, oh, I'm loving this place. Yeah, who are you? And he's like, oh, I'm the CEO, I'm the founder. So yeah, it was real. We became part of that team. So more white t-shirts, more good times. But now starting to drill down to what makes them special. So we run workshops. When we start to get to a kind of spiritual territory, it's really close to the words that you had in your presentation, if you saw it earlier. You know, we start to, analogies between Playboy and this, but it was, you start to give yourself these kind of words, these spaces, whether it's chic, whether it's cool, whether it's reserved, whether it's human, and you start to build out a bit of a space, a bit of a territory, and then we help them refine that. And in a nutshell, this is what we helped Typeform internally articulate their point of difference being. They said it's not just good enough to collect data on people. It's not just good enough to ask questions. It's not really good enough either to have information on someone. You know, we are all about really knowing someone, really knowing people. It's that difference between a colleague, someone you see at an event, at a festival, and your family, or your best friend. You really know them, and it's all those kind of non-verbal visual cues. And we said, if you can have this North Star that every product decision, every acquisition, the way you grow your team, the way you have your meetings, if it can all ladder up to this spirit of getting to really know someone, so giving them the time, maybe meetings are done in a different manner. You know, it's why you have Barception. It's why you're different from all those other data collection companies, because you've got a bit of a spirit. Not that the others don't, but you had more. So they had this positioning, this really know people. And that for us is almost like once we've got that right, once everyone's comfortable, once they can see the future with that, we can just go for it. We just go like off the chain. We create everything, and we don't say no, because that's just the answer. And you know you've got a good proposition territory, and you've got a good strategy if your designers already can think of the typeface they're going to use, and they know what the art direction is going to be, and the copywriters know how to write stuff for it. You know, if your team is like just spilling ideas out, you know you're in a good place. So how do we bring it to life? It was a bit wild, actually. Again, we never take it easy on ourselves. We went lots of looking difficult around, lots of creative boards. We just exploded it out. The team go back to London. We flew over their creative director. We spent a lot of time just teasing out what it means to really know someone. All the different ways you can do that visually, verbally, through touch, through feel, through sound, through product interactions. Oh no, I spoiled the surprise. That's the answer. We got to a really exciting place. That's my one fun slide. So after all these weeks of working with a team, getting to a point, we figured out we had the answer, and here it is. And we were like, this is it. How do you really know people? What's the non-verbal cue? It's that GIF, isn't it? We were like, it's your eyebrows. That's how you gesture with people. And can Typeform be the eyebrows of the internet? That was our big idea. And everyone was on board, and we were like, I don't know why you're on board, but let's roll with it. And we were like, yeah, because, you know, it's that kind of thing that's, if you really know, maybe when you're filling in the form, they can wiggle the eyebrows at you, and it can get a bit tense or awkward, or you can kind of be a bit more angry if they haven't filled in the rest of the form. And this was it, and this was gold, and we were running with it. And we did quite a few sprints, and the eyebrows got to quite a late stage. And then they sort of got paused a little bit, because I think that CEO saw it again and said, yeah, but isn't there more than eyebrows? What about people who can't see eyebrows? And we went, okay, you got us. There must be more. And then the other thing as well that they were worried about was GIFs, eyebrows, really knowing people. That's fantastic, but don't forget about our roots. Don't forget about where we're from. Where's the art? Where's the love? Where's the joy? Where's our Barcelona roots? Where's Picasso? Where's Miro? Where's the kind of extra? And we said, oh, we can do that. We can go back to nature. We can pick on people like Richard Long, James Turrell. We can think of narratives that are created more naturally, you know, amazing pieces of nature. Because really what they're doing is collating information as they go along in quite a natural manner. And we said, how can we be the yin to the yang for the more data-driven, algorithmic data collectors? Well, maybe we should feel more like a natural data collector, like a tree that accumulates information over time in an organic way. Can we create something out of that? So that was the idea. And I don't think I've seen a project like 2 years ago without James Turrell on it and bloody gradients. So I'm hoping at some point James Turrell will be off the boards and gradients will have evolved into something new. So we started playing with age and rings and organic forms, and we came up with all this really ugly stuff. And we're like, oh, this is ugly. This is horrible. I don't know what you see in that Rorschach, but it's not going to work for Typeform. You know, that doesn't say anything about really knowing people. But we had a really ambitious and brave creative director on their side, who, out of this and the eyebrows, saw something in this, and he really pushed us. And again, I actually do think we'd have gone for something safer if we'd have listened to the entire team. And we were erring on the side of something a little bit more universal. And he said, no, I can see something in it. So again, listening to the client and actually letting the client in more so. When they're being braver than you, that almost never, ever happens. So we went, fantastic. And this is for the scientists in the room. Fake science. No, like we said, okay, right, we've got this spirit, but it's looking damn ugly. Can we start to bring some formality around it? Because most of our designers love something to work within. So golden ratio comes out the bag of well-used tricks to give us a little bit of kind of an idea of general spacing. And we started saying, well, is there something on that accumulation of information, like a tree would accumulate rings? Can we create something that's formalized? You know, maybe there's something to do with beautiful spacing that follows the philotactic ratio. They loved it, and that's the ratio that ensures that plants splay out their leaves so they get the best from photosynthesis. Why not? Fantastic, they loved it. And it's a beautiful story. And then we borrowed the sizing of the rings from the golden ratio, and you had these 5 beautiful rings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that were all spaced out and all made sense and all had a history, and it talked about data collection. It nodded towards infographics, but it looked quite info-y. So we needed to create something that was a lot more organic, a lot more beautiful, and a lot more living. And that's where we came back in and started driving the ship. And we said, no, it needs to be alive as well. You're a predominantly digital product. You're going to be in people's lives. So you need to almost... like I'm a massive fan of Ken Yahara and all the stuff that he did with Muji and all the beautiful product design that he oversaw. And stuff like the breathing MacBook and things that feel like technology that feels like it has a sort of pass over into real life. So we said, can you bring that into the brand? And this became the core idea. Super weird, right? I think that the hairs of the internet, it was called. But you've got to ruffle the feathers, haven't you? You've got to get people excited. So this was the idea. It was concentric rings that had an organic form that went through quite a chaotic, emotive space, but ended up in a position that was completely considered. It felt dataful, and suddenly you could see clarity from the chaos. And we said, this is the brand system. This is the whole idea. And you've got 3 states which are going to really do you well in different positions. You've got the first state, which is the whole picture. What is this? This is like an infographic of all the data you might have from a survey. It's all the information you might have on a person. It's living, it's alive, it grows. It is a pure infographic. It shows you the whole overview. You've got the middle state, which is the emotive state, because people are just confusing. However much data you have on someone, you don't really know people. You need to have a brand that can speak in emotive and exciting and just abstract ways, because you're data scientists, but you're more than that. You're fun. Sorry to any of the data scientists, you're also fun. But then you need to have the rational state, the measurable state, the third place, where you actually want to dive into your details. I've got that as an overview, fantastic, but I want to drill into that data and start to analyze it. So you've got the analytical state. And we said that's your brand system. You've got something that can be used in communications, in advertising, and marketing. You've got the whole picture, which is basically your logo, your core brand assets, your primary touch points. And then you've got this state, which is heavy lifting, infographics. This can be used in the product. 3 states, and what you see there is a real stretch of emotion as well. So if nothing, DesignStudio loves a film, so we'll show you another film. And what we put films together for is, along the way, we beg, borrow, and borrow to create a sort of mood for the client, so they understand that eventually when we get there, this is sort of how it will feel, this is how your customers will feel, and why you should get excited about this idea. And this was the film to sell in the idea of really know people connected to this emotive, growing infographic, and it's just all the states and gorgeous emotion. So that's it. Super weird, but fantastic. What was really cool about that is that film borrowed from a lot of image makers, filmmakers, photographers, and illustrators, which Typeform actually went on to commission quite a bunch of them to create some of their bespoke, out-the-can starting points and templates for the form. So this is what we ended up with. Like a mark and a logo that couldn't have come around, but only through process. Only a mother could love this logo, but they loved it because it made total sense. It was living and breathing, and it changed, and it grew, and held data and it talked about information and liveness. Don't even know what this one does. Ah, yeah, black and white. So again, we had a mark, we had a form, we had a system, but it was all black and white. Typeform, again, we work really closely with businesses because for us, design is truly solving a business problem. Their challenge was they had to connect in a kind of business-to-consumer level, and they had to sell small businesses amazing products and individuals to get them to do surveys. But also they wanted to white label their tool and pass this on to other businesses as well. So we said, well, you have a core palette, it's black and white, quite radical for DesignStudio to not use color at the time. But for you, it made sense. But on top of that, we bring the color through content. So it's the people that bring the color, it's the illustration that brings the color. It's this montage, collage, collection. It's like a digital patina that just collects information and data in a really eclectic, beautiful manner, right? That was our big idea. So you've got the collection of data, you've got the space, you've got the beautiful, emotive state of those rings. And this is how it came to life. So pretty radical departure for their homepage. Starting to touch on tone of voice, speak to people, like people. That was kind of an external articulation of really know people. That's the sort of why you care as a customer. And then this is our favorite thing. We like to push our clients on everything, and we say, why do you have to have buttons when you can have breathing buttons, living buttons? Why does every button have to have the same CTA? Shouldn't they talk to you like it's the beginning of a conversation? Shouldn't, as you start to press, let's make it and answer more questions, the button grows and shows the data growing. Tell me about it. Ask away. Get going. So it felt joyous. It felt beautiful. It was real people. In the back end, when you start to go into the CMS for the people who ran these surveys, suddenly their data looked fantastic and wasn't wacky and trendy and just joyous. It was simple and accessible and easy to manipulate and easy to filter, and it just blew it apart. So it was working on both ends of the spectrum for the users here. For us, there's no difference between product design, graphic design, logos, typography. It all has to work, and it all has to be an idea that makes sense. And all of this is driven from really know people, right? We said you should do a podcast series called Great Misunderstandings of Our Time, where you just get great thinkers to dispel those big misunderstandings. Or maybe it's a mother and son who had a fantastic misunderstanding last Sunday, and we help them really know each other and get to the data. Looked great outside. We could start to just be really playful. We could start to pull in search results from the surveys. Brilliant, beautiful, bizarre. People are complex. Let's embrace that. It doesn't have to make sense because people don't make sense, but maybe you can get to know them with Typeform. This is probably the worst comp in the deck, possibly followed by this one. So this is what the entrance could look like. And then taking it full circle back to that barception that they had, where you had the flat whites. And we said, well, wouldn't it be cool? And they actually did it. We laser cut them some stainless steel that then every flat white could be dusted, or every cappuccino could be dusted with the logo. Looked a bit ugly, but fantastic application, key application. And we made it, but that's a comp, but we really did make it. That's super cool. And the team loved it and they embraced it, and it's a testament to the DS process, because at the end of it, it felt like the team had created it. It wasn't us in Typeform, it was the whole design crew. It was the Typeform design crew, and we were just part of it. We had an incredible launch in Barcelona. We made the logo out of light, and it had curtains around it in the center of the room, and once they launched it, they dropped it, and then everyone could sort of intercept themselves in this awesome logo. They made swag and merch, like every good brand should have a tote bag, I believe. And then it was over to them, and this is the last little bit. So for us, again, like that's not the end of the journey. We need to give them amazing tools that they could go off and create. So we create a really lightweight prototyping tool, a lightweight digitally hosted tool that they could get all the assets, so you could have living logos. They had a pattern generator, and then this is their website that they created without us. Looking really bonkers, quite beautiful. These were real people, real photography from real users. So this is Rand Fishkin, the Wizard of Moz, and he uses it to attract more responses. Bit scary, that one. and then getting better data, getting conversational. And the last point we'll leave you on is sometimes decisions can feel really throwaway and easy and obvious, and part of this Typeform process was like, really know people, so you should use real people in photography. Obvious, right? Even the mood film felt a bit Depop-y and real and honest. But as soon as we start to use real photographs, Typeform starts to get responses from people saying, wow, it's fantastic. You actually show people that like me, like whoever I am. It's like in a space where actually like a lot of online digital services feel quite homogenous in the way that they present people. Typeform were trying to at least move away from that slightly, and it was getting really great responses. So what was an obvious thing for us actually became a really fundamentally important piece for the brand. And that's Typeform, I think. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so one more, and then you can ask any questions that you want. League of Legends. Who knows what this is? Not as many. Not
Only
as many.
a few cool people in the room.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is the largest multiplayer game on the internet. Is League of Legends, just so you know. So there's 250 million players, active players, or something like that play this game. And what it's got is this massive e-sport that kind of goes around it. So if you know what an e-sport is, does everyone know what an e-sport is? You probably do now, because it's getting a little bit mainstream now. So you might know Fortnite or Counter-Strike. They have all these e-sport teams. So we were asked by these guys to design design the new logo for the. It wasn't called that at the time. It was the European League of Legends Championship Series, which was a very difficult typographic situation. So what we did is we did our process, and I'll give you a bit of a sense of what that looks like. So we went on a mission with them. Okay, so you got a bit of a sense there of our key process in the immersion phase, where we basically have to learn everything, because I knew nothing about League of Legends at all. Now, I am a Counter-Strike fan, and I do play a lot of hours of Counter-Strike, but I gave myself a mission. I put 30 hours in on this game, and which basically just got me up to being able to play it all with basically normal people on the internet. And it's a really cool game. It's really fantastic. It's got loads of special characters from all over the world. It's a fantasy kind of game where you kind of throw laser beams at people and you can basically do whatever you want. There's 140 different characters. You pick one of them and you battle it out. I'll tell you a bit more in a sec. But what we found out was that these guys are just doing something different, better, bigger, more different than any of the other esport leagues that are out there, because we had to kind of do a bit of a an audit, a kind of a checkout of what are all those other, Dota or all the other computer games that have these things out there. We had to understand what they look like, how they broadcast it, what their sets and their stadiums look like, what's the vibe. And we realized that they're doing something really cool. They're doing something really different. They're kind of doing it differently. It's certainly different from traditional sports. And they're creating really unforgettable moments. So for the people that follow this, it is exactly like football or a sport. They love it and watch it with that same energy and passion that some of you probably watch football with, which is really, really interesting. And so they have those memories of those kind of moments when someone destroys the Nexus, or they've got all these kind of amazing kind of language that they use, and they're creating unforgettable moments for people. There's a stadium in the background that you can see at one of their finals. And they really, really were unique. They're broadcasters and the people that present the show. So there's presenters. Yeah, you're probably going, why is that? There's presenters? Yeah, there's presenters. There's loads of people doing stuff. They're a little bit out there, so they don't have the same rules. They're not as stuffy as kind of traditional leagues, and they do really silly things. And they represent Europe, so people from all over Europe, which is really, really exciting. And these were the final two words that we kind of put together that really described what it is that they're doing. They unleash together. So unleash is that sense of just destroying stuff, killing stuff, battling it out, releasing that energy. That's the game. That's the game. We've got to kind of, build on that. But the other bit, which is kind of in contrast to that, is this togetherness. Actually, it's whenever all of those fans come together to celebrate, unlike QPR versus Scunthorpe, it's not going to be like a real grudge match where they hate each other. It's not like that. They hate each other just for the moment that they're playing each other, but after that, they love each other. They're kind of a community, a really close community of fans that kind of love the sport, talk about the sport, and it really is their identity. So we wanted to capture that as well. This was the sentiment of unleash together meant. But it wasn't just for the fans. This is also something that we wanted to work for the players themselves. So we had to consider the professional players, those kind of kids that have been spending 12 hours to 16 hours every day for the last several years playing this game. Those professional athletes, we had to think about the brand for them. We had to think about what it meant for the internal employees at Riot Games, which is kind of the company that owns League of Legends. And we had to think around their teams, their coaches, the business that kind of runs around them. You actually have to be able to raise £10 million to be able to join, like the NBA, a single team, and there's 10 teams in the league, just to give you a sense of scale. And we have to consider those sponsors because, like with any kind of broadcast package or broadcast right, you have to really think these things through. So Unleash Together really kind of worked for all of these different people. So then we were like, okay, great. We had that down, and only when we had that stuff down would we then do this, because you can't have a really massive change without really getting alignment first. You just won't have that chance. Okay, so we took those two words, unleash, the game, that's kind of some scenes from some fan art, because there's this massive community of like illustrators and just creating loads of stuff in the background. And then there's Together, that's the actual kind of gameplay. We wanted to capture the explosive energy and the magic of the games. We wanted to represent these two teams in battle, these kind of, it's a 5 versus 5 game scenario. You can see it there. There's kind of a blue team and there's a red team. And so it's 5 versus 5 battle to like a capture the flag scenario. But all coming together, one arena, one victor, one crown. Okay, and then we did about 1 million logo versions. Everyone in the studio getting involved, really kind of pushing it around, really trying to decide what is it that this thing is going to be? How can we make it really distinctive? We wanted to make it really distinctive from the other leagues in that were also in the League of Legends thing. And we ended on this, which is the crown, this kind of shattered, brokered crown that represents Unleashed Together. And of course, it's super cool when it comes to life in animation. And this is one of the key reasons it looks kind of the way it does. We've thought around it as a 3D object, so it can really come to life on the sets, in all of the animations, in augmented reality, in lots of different scenarios. And it has actually gone on to do like loads and loads of that stuff. So this was the final mark. LEC. We also had that old typographic challenge of death, which was how do we actually have it written out? League of Legends European Championship, which was the new name that we kind of did. So what we did is we really wanted the icon to be the thing that everyone remembered, and we wanted LEC to be the acronym that they use. And we wanted to kind of move away from all that stuff. So we basically made a very versatile system that operated in lots of different ways to take some pressure off that symbol and that lockup. Because, and you can see this is what the rest of the esports world looks like in terms of League of Legends. You've got North America. Now that North America one was what Europe used to look like. It was exactly the same as that, except it said Europe at the top, and it was red instead. It had a red ribbon. So we pushed them into this middle ground here, which is much more like a traditional sports kind of symbol, which is a lot cooler for these athletes. They are athletes and they do take it seriously. So we want it to be very punchy. And of course, then if it's really punchy, you can put it on loads of stuff and it holds really well, where their previous intricate shield mark thing didn't work pretty much anywhere. And you can see some of the supporting graphics come in. In terms of tone of voice, they had a chant which went something like EU, EU, EU. And so we just took that EU and we just plastered that all over the place, which was really fun. This is on the double doors going into the massive stadium where they kind of battle it out every week. But what about the rest of the system? Because we never stop there and we always push further, further, further. Okay, intense. So we are EU, so you can see some of the kind of mock-ups that we would use to kind of get them really excited. You can see some of the posters and the banners that we would use. What we wanted was we were using kind of a very simplistic kind of 2D style, but very high impact. We had these kind of dynamic patterns that were based on the magic spells within the game. So we had a whole series of different ones that we used as patterns. And we also, just again, similar to kind of the Depop environment, we really understood the community and how they talked. So we just used their words again to kind of really empathize with them. Not today, they say, we will not tilt. Bloodbath in the bot lane. Raw is one. And you can see some ticketing stuff. So, you know, how can we kind of have something really cool that works for tickets? Typographically, we wanted it to look like it had been through a fight. So we kind of brutally hacked lots of chunks out of it. Another part of the puzzle was the illustration style that we wanted to have, so that there would be this kind of, we could do a whole bunch of kind of stickers and merch and stuff that would kind of scatter its way around Berlin, where this place is based. And so we commissioned a kind of a tattoo flash artist to design 140 separate icons for every single character, so people could have this kind of icon of the game. You can see some of the ones up the top there. so everyone could kind of associate with their specific character, and they could use it, and kind of you can see these scattered throughout the experience now, which is really cool. So Reckless, that guy there, is one of the most famous players in this in the game. He's also one of the few that actually looks really fantastic when photographed. So he gets used a lot in a lot of our mock-ups, because as you can imagine, they're in their room 16 hours a day battling it out. But this is Reckless, and we also had to give them a treatment so that whenever you saw this, you knew that it was from the European League of Legends, because there's heaps of other leagues and sports and all these different divisions. So every time you see an image, a piece of type, a pattern, a color, it has to really kind of say very, very clearly where it's from. So this is what we did. We introduced this kind of glow system, and we also applied this same system to the characters in the game so that we could create a connection between those things. So you could kind of, when it came to broadcast packages and toolkits, we could kind of flip in and out. Obviously, this thing is designed to work really well in Instagram, social media. Everything's built to move and interact. So how does it all come together? Well, we wanted it to look like, old school, like boxing posters from Europe. So we're always having this kind of clash of styles and colors coming together to battle it out. This idea of the clash also, you saw these two things kind of striking together like that in the broadcast package. And what's really fun about this is because they're new to it, they can break a lot of rules. So we've done Champions League, Premier League, loads of different broadcast kind of toolkits. But what's fantastic here is we could actually kind of flex things a bit. So we've got a ticker on the side. We're using type standing like that. That will never, ever, ever happen in a major sporting event. But for these guys, they can get away with it, which is really cool. So most importantly, it's for the fans. So we basically designed this whole toolkit, as you can see, for them. So we wanted them to have like flags and tattoos and stamps and shirts and Instagram material, so that we could really create, like amplify the community that already existed, because we knew that that's how we'd get the message out. That's how we'd make it really, really exciting. So we got it all sorted. We had it all signed off. Everything's done. This is all down. We love it. Everyone's really excited. And we're about to launch it into the world. We thought this is going to be a great idea. What we'll do is we'll do a countdown, a 24-hour countdown, and we'll take over all their websites, and we'll say something big is happening in 24 hours. We started the 24-hour clock, and within the hour, one of these kind of hackers basically had searched and found the lawyer's website that has submitted the trademark proposal for the mark and for the name, boom, up on Reddit. And do you think they loved it? What do you think? Loved it? Hated it? Does anyone know what they said? Leck my balls. So LEC is lick in German. And they loved this. This became a massive hashtag. Leck my balls. Leck my balls. Leck my balls. King of leck my balls by far. The number of leck my jokes are going to make this the worst in league history. What are you thinking, Riot? What else do we get? Kill me now. That logo sucks. No color. My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined. This logo is ugly AF. It doesn't represent me. LEC sounds awful. Leck my feet. Holy fucking shit. They really don't give up about EU. I can find 12-year-old kids who would come up with a better symbol and the name. Symbol looks more like a graph with a terrible design. What a terrible design. It belongs in something crappy design. Looks way too simple and lazy. It's as if they didn't bother hiring an artist to make it. They didn't. They hired a designer. Big mistake. Okay. So That was the first hour of the launch. We had to wait a painful 23 hours before we launched the rest of the city, the system, the animation, all that amazing stuff that you saw. They were just looking at a symbol in isolation. If you ever do that, you're definitely going to get punished for it. And the other thing is that you've got to remember is it's really, really good. It's really good. And it will happen if you ever launch a big brand. Happens every time. If you're doing something new, interesting, different, you're going to get a lot of hate. Heaps of it. The whole internet's going to hate on it. The more people hate on it, actually, the more they remember it, and probably the more successful it'll be long term. So it's just something to bear in mind, and not to panic when it does it. When we launched the rest of the stuff, the whole thing changed. The whole mood changed. They got really, really excited, and business went up. So there was a massive spike in growth, 50% growth in viewership compared to the previous year. So it's pretty incredible stuff. And this has continued to go from strength to strength over the years. I think they're now 65% better viewing numbers on the European League compared to the American League, which previously was kind of the opposite. So it's pretty amazing to see it in action. And they've totally embraced it and loved it. None of that Lick My Balls is there anymore, although I do love it. And they're out there. This is we worked with them on the finals and the set design and the stage design for everything, so you can see how it comes together. And you can see the people kind of there. You see some of that tone of voice we're talking around. We are EU. This is the guy actually kind of getting the crowd together and going, EU, EU, and the whole stadium saying that, which is really powerful and actually really lovely that there's this community of people getting together to kill each other. And so that's kind of what it looks like at the finals. So yeah, it's a pretty big deal. And really, really cool and really exciting and really fun project to be a part of. This is what the pros look like when they're in action. You can see some of those patterns and things circulating around the edges. You can see some of the type and stuff in action. And another wonderful piece of the puzzle was that we got to design this incredibly epic trophy. So we talked around partnership and kind of working with different types of people. Obviously, our skills kind of don't extend into this 3D world, so we just brought people in, people who could kind of design amazing 3D objects, and we worked with them to create all of this stuff and worked with some kind of leading trophy makers to bring it to life. And of course, we made it way bigger than all the other leagues as well, and it's actually so heavy that it's actually amazing that guy's carrying it. You can probably do that for about 2 seconds. I think it's 20 kilos. So it's like if you've got a big 20 kilo kettlebell and you're like hoisting it up. So you've really got to brace yourself for it. Oh. So that's it. That's League of Legends. And we've basically gone on to do heaps more work with them now. And we showed them some stuff at the very, very first interactions where we're like, guys, come on, you can be so much cooler than you are. Move away from traditional sports. Stop copying them, because they were totally copying them. Just reflect your community. And so we showed them loads of stuff from internet culture, from from stuff that's really amazing and cool in the world. And now they've kind of started to trust us, and so we can start to kind of push it and do it even cooler. So this is this was our hype film that we created for the Athens final. This is the last thing, and then we'll have some questions. Cool. Any questions? Yeah.
Thanks, guys. I loved your approach to work, but since the beginning I came here, I had that one question that I have to do now. So, how do you approach and how do you feel when you do a big work for a big agency, and after that, the agency start to do something that you had never imagined or you don't like Airbnb, who basically destroyed the city center of my hometown, which is Florence, and I don't know, how do you feel? Because, of course, creative part is amazing, it's important, but you probably are at a level that I will never reach, and I would like to know how do you feel, and if you feel, I don't know, guilty or something, and but I mean, of course, creativity is important, but after that, no, the company going over, and because you made the logo, you made it famous. I don't know if it was clear enough.
No, 100% clear. I think it's a great question because design is a serious thing as well as a very light-hearted thing. I think we're still really proud of the proposition we gave Airbnb, which was the spirit of trying to create belonging anywhere. I think what you could say is they've gone astray. I think if you were true to that spirit that we gave them, that spirit belonging, then I think you'd work in better collaboration with regulatory bodies and governments and cities. I think the path we set them on was a really positive path. So I think, no regrets there. I think it's fantastic. I think they're doing a lot of good. But there's certain things that, when it's out of your control, yes, it does weigh to some extent. I think in the broadest sense, we are really careful with who we work with. We're in the really lucky position that when new business comes to us, we carefully consider what this business is about, what they truly believe in. There are some times when we've done immersions and we've realized that maybe they're not quite aligned with what we believe in, and we've stopped working in a really amicable way. So we're really careful with picking. But I guess it's sometimes a company goes where the company goes. But I think we're still really proud of the spirit we tried to give them. I think it's really challenging. I think the Ubers of the world and the ride-sharing taxis of the world, every company is going to start to face this as less and less companies exist now, and you get these big app ecosystems, which is pretty much where everything's going. I think companies will have a bigger responsibility, but for sure.
Excellent question. Do I feel guilty about it? Yeah. And I'm extremely conscientious about directing a company in a true, authentic, and original way. And I think that's really important to state that. So I'm extremely conscious about the environment and social good of communities. And it's something I'm personally passionate about. It's actually why I do this job. It's actually why I do it, right? Because I want to have a positive impact on the world. I want to influence these companies to make stuff better. Because this stuff's going to happen, right? But we need to push them in the way that is right. And as designers, you have the absolute power to do that. And you should be doing that. And if you're not, and if you're just doing what they say or whatever, then you're really doing the wrong thing. Never do that. You push them in the way that you think is right. And I'm really conscientious about that. It's also why I joined DesignStudio. So they have this philosophy, I didn't talk about it, is meaningful difference. We want to create a difference, yes, but it has to be a meaningful one. It has to be a positive one for communities, for people in the world. Now, any new business, particularly a big one like Airbnb or any of the new fintechs that are out there, or any kind of food delivery service, ride-hailing service or anything, and we are working in this world, they're working in a grey zone between regulation and rules and laws and authorities, and it's also the most exciting, most innovative part of business in the world today. So I want to be part of that, and I want to make sure we steer it in the right way. Make sure that we're the people going, hey, what about those people? What about those people down there like doing stuff? Let's make sure we consider them. Let's make sure we consider the riders. So I'm working with a very large business right now, And the riders currently, I'm really worried about their safety because they're all wearing black, and there's 100,000 of them out there. They're all wearing black every night, and they're driving around 14 to 16 hours a day in black. And I think that's really dangerous. So a big personal challenge of mine is, okay, we're going to change that. They're going to be wearing bright orange and flash gear, you know, and I'll just say it and I'll be really honest, and I'll personally try and improve the businesses that I work for. So I feel very passionate about it, and I know that everyone at DesignStudio does as well. And if you kind of went there, you'd know and you'd feel, because you'll just sense it. Any other questions? Go for it. Any questions? The thornier, the better, please.
Just a matter of curiosity, what happened in that first hour with Lick My...
Lick my balls.
Yes. Do the customer call you, or...?
Yeah. Joe is an amazing client. He's an amazing guy. This dude, like, it wouldn't have happened. All this cool, like a cool brand and all the future work wouldn't have happened without this guy. So I had a really close working relationship with him. So we would WhatsApp each other, and so as soon as we saw those comments coming in, I shot him. I was proactive. That's always the first thing you got to do. If you ever have a situation, always be proactive. Reach out first. Do not wait for them. Say, hey, I just saw this come up. Yeah, and I'm like, that's great. Don't worry about it. And I said, do you know what? No one is going to ever forget LEC. And they didn't. And they just had to go out when they went. And so we said, we made a bit of a plan. We went, okay, so when the first broadcast goes live, we're gonna get all the broadcasters, they call them shoutcasters, all the people are gonna really repeat the name LEC. No one will ever say LEC. They'll just repeat the word LEC, and they'll also say the full name, League of Legends European Championship. So if you did watch the first broadcast, you would see them kind of over exacerbating it. And yeah, and it disappeared. I mean, it still comes up every now and then, but they normally do it like Lecmo Balls NA, which is North American League. So it's normally when they win, because Europe's now the best region as well. So it's also this internal pride, and then it's doing really well.
Since you have branches in various cities and all around the world, how do you distribute the work between these branches? So do you usually ask the international companies, do you usually indicate the branch which is you think is better to work with for them, or how does it work?
It's normally done by headquarter geography. So, which is a bit of a bummer, because I would love to do some work in New York, but I never get the chance to, because we've got a New York office and a San Francisco office. So generally, if there's going to be a lot of work happening over there, it's not to say that we won't do it, because often we still will work on some of those jobs that go over there, but it'll generally be distributed to the relevant people. So the people in Australia will pick up the more Australian or Asian jobs, or so on and so forth. So it's normally geographic. The other thing is whoever wins the job generally does it. So, if you're if we're pitching for work and we're whoever leads that, whatever team gets together leads it, then runs the job. So that's typically how it works, unless it's complicated.
Do you pitch a lot, or do you get a lot of commissioned work directly?
We pitch a lot, but we get a lot of direct as well, much more than any other company that I've ever worked for before. So a lot of inbound traffic, but a lot of that time it's still you've got to pitch. So it's we've seen all that stuff you're doing, awesome, but you've got to pitch for that work. So you still got to win the job. The name means nothing, right? Well, it gets you that initial conversation, then you have to win the job. Yeah, always got to go for it.
I think once we decide we want the job, we go for it, and we go heavy. And the pitch should be fantastic, and it should surprise them. And yeah, DesignStudio gets you on the pitch list or gets you invited, but that pitch has to be the magic. You know, it's always going beyond and making sure that you surprise them and create something fantastic. Because we can't take ourselves for granted, because the world is changing faster than we're changing.
My final question: you spent a lot of time on the process at the beginning of your talk. Do you have an internal system of training to train the new employees, or something else?
Yeah, we get them on an immersion as soon as possible, and we send them out of the country, and they're just like on the road. It's incredible, and they'll know if they'll just embrace it. So they'll go out with a team who's done it a bunch of times, but for them, they're just like, you know, you might be a junior straight out of college and you're being sent to Brazil for 2 weeks doing an incredible immersion. So you can only learn by doing. It's really uncomfortable for a bunch of months. Some people get up to speed quicker and slower, but we try and create an environment where it's okay to feel really uncomfortable, but you'll get there, and then it feels great. But you do feel a bit like lost at sea, which is also kind of the spirit you want to always be lost at sea, I think.
Hi. A lot of kind of what's brilliant about your work is the strategy and the writing, and you guys talked about words. Yeah. I was wondering first, you know, if your background was in design or in strategy, and is that separated in your process, or are designers also the people you hire already keen on strategy and words?
No, that's great. I realized we described our process really badly, because yeah, exactly. So designers do the strategy. Everyone's involved from the beginning. The team that starts the process or the team that ends the process. But we do have some specific strategists, and we do have some copywriters, and we're all kind of versed in strategy, but none of us studied it. And we try and grow a team from a really, really diverse background of thinking. So we've got strategists who are more like creative technologists, we've got anthropologists, we've got designers who decided they didn't want to design anymore and they wanted just to be strategically leaning. We've got a couple of amazing ex-Fabrica designers who were really thinkers that now are leading teams. So a real kind of blend, I think. But strategy has to run throughout the whole process because, you know, we get, again, like juniors and mids in front of CEOs listening to what they're saying, so that at the end of it, when they're designing the logo, in their head, they remember that they were talking to this amazing leader, and as she imparted what she wanted for the business, they're thinking of that. It can't just live at the top. So Cam and I are on the road a bunch, but the team is actually there doing the work on the road way more than we are. We get to show their awesome work, really. Yeah.
Just one question about the immersion phase. You show a lot of involvement of your client, but you involve with the customer for your client, and if yes, in which way?
So we do that in lots of ways. So there's formal ways that we do it, like research. So what we'll typically do is we might piggyback customer research that's going on. So if you guys don't know that, it's like a customer research kind of a room with loads of customers in it. Or we might do in-home interviews with people. So we actually have conversations with them, ask them like millions of questions, not just around the product or the thing that we're kind of creating, but around life in general for them, and what's going on and different things that they're interested in. We also do street stuff, just catch people on the street, and we'll often do fun stuff like for OLX, we got a van together with loads of designers from DesignStudio, but also their team as well, and we just kind of drive to the middle of, you know, India, jump out and just do little interviews and vox pops with people on the street, just ask them loads of questions around the brand and what they think of it, what their perception is, just to get a real first-hand knowledge of it. And the other thing is to actually use the product or the service that you're kind of selling and really know it. That's why I played the game for 30 hours, because you've got to really, really know it. The whole team has to know it inside and out, because otherwise you can't really design for it. Yes. Yes, and we also do, generally, because the clients often have loads and loads of customer data, research, big trends, quantitative data, they'll feed that in. They're the best experts, and we'll get their insights team to just tell us. So that's part of every process, yeah.
Okay, I think that people in the room would like to taste some room. Yeah, also you. Okay, so let's have a big round of applause for Alex and Campbell, DesignStudio.